Hello, guys. Good evening, good day, good morning. Can you hear me? Can you see me well? Hello. So happy to be with you today, and I'm very grateful that so many of you have joined. And I literally loved reading the updates from Philip. And I felt like I'm doing all of that, the motorcade arriving, the red carpet rolling. I feel like I need to do it all in my room, before I start, so that it looks that natural. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I love our community that people from so many different corners are here. Greetings, Trev. Greetings, Yoda. Malenki Boyovi, this is a nice address. I'm very grateful for our team, and it's quite big. Thank you so much, Martin, Philip, Rudy, Spencer, and special greetings to Francesca. So, honestly, today we have one of my favorite topics, and that is we are going to speak about the future inevitable collapse of Russia. And right now we observe that Putin's empire is becoming weaker, weaker, and weaker. I want to take a couple of minutes to read greetings from all these beautiful places. So you can write me where you are right now. And I'm always so honored that we have people from the Netherlands and from Ireland and from Scotland and from Oblast of California and Saskatchewan and from Sweden and from New York Oblast and Switzerland again and Nice, of course, Francois, hello, and from Canada and UK and Norway. I dream to visit Norway, you know that. And from Oregon and Portugal and Arkansas and New Zealand. And I know we always have people from Australia, beautiful land, Belgium, Colorado, Slovakia, Finland. How was your yesterday, Independence Day? And Perth in Australia, that's what I'm saying. Stockholm in Sweden, and Bavaria, and Barcelona, and Indiana, USA, England, Estonia, oh my God, Poland, Czech, and New York, and Germany, and Southampton. And thank you so much for being here. And Los Angeles, and Deutschland, hello, and Pennsylvania, and Florida, and Czech to Poland again, and India, Montreal, oh my God, Washington, Доброго вечора з Нідерландів, Portugal. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm honestly honored that our community is so truly international, that I have a digital advisor on the channel. I've mentioned you, he's like a friend who helps with the thumbnails and sometimes does some analytics. Greetings to Bulgaria. And he says, oh my God, the channel is truly international. And all because we have our people literally everywhere. Greetings to Prague. And you make me so happy when I read how you communicate. Milwaukee, Kentucky. When you speak with each other, when you know each other, when you become stronger together. Greetings to Holland and Portugal and Virginia and Brazil and many, many beautiful people. And Copenhagen, Denmark, we have Denmark. And thank you so much for being here today from all of your beautiful countries. I'm sure, have viewers in Paris, and big things are happening right now in Paris because I have just watched the photos of President Zelensky meeting with President Macron and Donald Trump. And there are lots of photos. Greetings to Namibia, South Africa, Netherlands. There are so many photos, and like all of us are zooming, looking at the faces and facial expressions of Zelensky, of Trump, trying to understand what were they talking about. But one of the best things is that all of this happening in the context of Russia losing in Syria. And, I feel like we do need to speak about this collapse of Putin's zone of influence. I will be ready to answer your questions. Thank you so much. And greetings to Belize. That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you so much, William, for joining us and for your constant support, and the coffees, of course. And Australia. We have a lot of friends from Australia on the channel and from New Zealand, and I'm very honored with that. Another proof how far away we can be from the perspective of kilometers, but not in the way we see the world. Thank you so much, Thomas. And well, let's start talking about this topic, because it is actually quite big. And we may not have enough time to discuss everything about the future potential dissolution of Russia, but it is an inevitable process that has actually already started. Because, thank you so much, Amaritsky. Thank you so much. Personally, bigger countries, traditionally richer countries, describe other countries that their zone of influence. We have to be realistic. There are many of such countries, and they can actually treat the zone of interest, zone of influence differently. Some may not interfere that much. Others may want to slowly swallow it, the adjacent territories. From one point of view, thank you so much, Dan, the time of empires is already over. There were a lot of them. Many of you come from the countries that were former empires, had colonies, but very important, greetings to Romania, and you did cool with the decision of your constitutional council. This is a slap on the face of Russian hijackers. We will speak about that too, because this is another loss of Putin's regime. So, like in the 19th century, the map was a bit different. There were empires, but up to the end of the 19th century, and especially in the 20th century, the majority of the big empires collapsed. Some of them did it quite naturally, slowly, and we may say beautifully, like less damaging for the countries that were a part of them. But for some, it was a very painful process. Anyway, by the mid of the 20th century, especially after the end of the Second World War, no real empires were left apart from the USSR. No matter what name Russia takes, be it empire, Soviet Union, federation, it keeps this very typical imperial character and behavior. And not all empires may have their colonies overseas. Some, especially such poor as Russia, and never well organized, with weak navy, because Russia, with all the seas and all the peninsulas, has never been a strong naval country. They prefer to expand horizontally, hijacking territories and living from the resources and the usage of people on that territories. One of the great differences that personally I see, and that's why I don't object when people describe Russia-Ukraine relations as imperial and colony, but honestly, I don't feel like Russia is a classical empire, because quite often empires, despite some aggressive usage of the colonies, also brought like higher medical standards, I don't know, some social institutions, or invented an alphabet to people who did not have it. Thank you so much. Aim for my head, please. Thank you for your support. And for Russia, it was never the cause. We cannot say that Russia was the one bringing, I don't know, civilization to Ukraine. It was totally different. It was mainly taking away the brains, the money, the resources. And one of the reasons, I don't know, have you ever asked yourself a question? Why people actually in Russia so desperately need Ukraine? Because they have the largest territory in the world. Most of this territory is empty. So it's not they are overpopulated. I don't know, like Japan, they don't have enough space or something. They have enough space. They have enough, greetings to the Philippines. They have enough territories. They have enough natural resources, gas, oil, all of this stuff they keep, dig and sell. But the question is, with all that, why they need more? Why do they need Ukraine? Why do they need Georgia? Why do they need Moldova? Well, because greetings to Italy. Well, because they cannot, like, their imperial myth, their wealth, their development is impossible without Ukraine. Just one of the good arguments that you can actually use if some people try to describe it like these are brotherly nations, why don't they live together? Ukraine does not want to live together with Russia. You know, it happens with boyfriends and girlfriends, husbands and wives, literally with everyone. Cat and dog, it's normal. People sometimes don't want to live together. And Russia, it has a very long period of this abusive relationship and attitudes to Ukraine, and it does not let us go. If it was truly strong country, why would it need Ukraine so desperately? So those who describe Ukraine like something that Russia, why don't you want? Keep asking. Thank you so much, Voxpedia. Keep asking. These Russia supporters, why on earth Russia so desperately needs Ukraine? Because it cannot get anything new from inside. It is afraid of democracies close to the borders, and it was always using the resources of Ukraine. And here I mean not just the coal, or I don't know what you're thinking about, gas or oil, but people. One of the most important things that, thank you so much, Tony. One of the most important things that we have to remember is that Russia in its head has this imperial construct that it wants to recreate. And in times when others because sometimes I speak with the people from the United States or people from the United Kingdom, and they keep blaming themselves too, saying, well, to some extent, we were an empire too. We were trying to influence something, this or that. But people, this is in the past. And most importantly, when we look at the history books, when we look at the literature, when we look at the narratives inside of your countries, people typically blame themselves for this and say, well, it might have been wrong, or we did this wrong. But in Russia, they do the contrary. They keep saying, you see how good it was when we suppressed the peoples of the Caucasus. We got to repeat that. We got to teach them they are impossible without Russian Empire. Once in Russian Empire, forever in Russian Empire. This is their image. So when they imagine the world, when they imagine this new world order, perhaps they have different zones of influence that they want to be on the Russian orbit. What surprises me is, thank you so much, Duncan. What surprises me is that many choose not to hear that, not to see that. And when you have literally the president of Russia or the former president of Russia, Medvedev, saying that, We can see Russian people on the shores of the Lisbon, or we remember the times when part of Berlin was um, Russian, or as you have just mentioned, that Poland is doing great, like, and much better than it was in times of the Eastern Bloc. And this is what they hate, and they try to return back to these borders. So I'd say that for countries like Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, the Baltics, I'm sorry, they perhaps see us as a part of Russia, like literally Russia, expanding Russian empire. And then, of course, they always have a lot of countries that they want to control, and they want to dictate how these countries should live. And they can be anywhere in the world. In Asia, there are a lot. In Central Asia, former Soviet republics, in Africa. And it is never something transparent that, for example, we want to build business with you and you give us this or that. Thank you so much, David. It is always various shrewd and cunning Russian technologies, like these Wagner soldiers in Africa. They are not protecting anyone. They are not helping anyone. They are simply stealing their resources and, I don't know, trading weapons and causing more troubles to the people who otherwise would live a better life. Iman, quick hello to you, and hopefully the wind will be kind to you and yours. Thank you so much for joining us, even for a brief second. So, Russia was dreaming about this new world order, and it kept repeating it on various United Nations meetings, on BRICS, and so on. And I actually love how Putin and Lavrov change their messages depending with whom they are speaking. And literally during one day, you can have Lavrov threatening the world with nuclear weapons. Thank you so much, Marcus. And then you can have him saying to Tucker Carlson that he loves American people and just like no problems. Oreshnik was just a drill. So they literally design messages with the speed of light and direct them the way you want. So, like, unfortunately, there are still people who listen to that, but it's not us. And so they were trying to recreate these different zones of influence, but here we come with a very, very important conclusion. You know that Putin often says that he is at war with the West, or he is at war with NATO countries when NATO didn't even start. Thank you. Yeah, double speak is very dangerous. You're totally right. And one of the most important things that he was trying to illustrate the strengths, but at the same time, he surely knows he's not fighting with NATO, because Putin's war with NATO would last like 3 days, indeed, for Putin. And what Putin does and Russia does by describing themselves as a strong army, as a strong military country, they always attack smaller countries. They always attack countries that they have previously demilitarized, as they did with Ukraine, or when they try to organize, and now I will use the Russian propaganda term, or they use a coup, like with Yanukovych, because they actually implanted Yanukovych in the Ukrainian government, and many people around him performing important functions like prosecutor general or the minister of internal affairs responsible for police services in Ukraine were Russian citizens. So obviously, if we're talking about Ukraine 2014 coup, it was Yanukovych. Yanukovych, who later fled to Russia, taking away Ukrainian treasury. What else do you need to see that the plan of Putin was to silently annex Ukraine? It failed because there is one component, one crucial component that he forgets about, and this is us, Ukrainian people. We have a very active civil society, and honestly, one of the reasons why they keep failing here in Russia, they don't have one. They have suppressed, traumatized population. And here we have people who are decision makers. And I have this, I am a little bit sarcastic sometimes. I even thought that it's maybe why they bomb Ukraine literally everywhere, and they say that we only target decision-making centers because all of Ukraine is a decision-making center. Literally every person in Ukraine can make some decisions and can change something in the country, starting from, I don't know, repairing a house and finishing with repairing the government or changing the president. Just count how many presidents we had in Ukraine during this period and in Russia. In Russia, they have Putin, and a brief period of Yeltsin. I don't count Medvedev as a president. I'm sorry. He is interstellar drug addict or something like that. So, let's count Ukrainian presidents. We had Kravchuk. Then we had 2 terms of Kuchma. Then we had Yushchenko. Then we had Yanukovych. Then we had Poroshenko. Then we had Zelensky. We had 7 people, and we will have more. And in Russia, we literally have generations of people who were born when Putin was a president, went to school when Putin was a president, then I don't know, got married, recruited to Russian army and died. And all of their lifespan actually went during this period of Putin's presidency, which is insane, and people accept that. So, trying to illustrate strengths, as a classical bully, Putin attacks only smaller, previously demilitarized countries. He attacks Georgia. He attacked Chechnya. He attacked Ukraine. Also, taking into account that the world is always concerned and very much afraid and so on. Thank you so much, John. And it is so important to see that if Russia was really strong, if Russia was really capable of fighting the real Third World War, not just create these troubles and hybrid warfare in your countries, but I mean open, active war, it would never be able to do so. It would be, thank you so much, John, it would be about fighting with someone equal. Why don't we see Russia attacking China? Russia is bigger than China. This is Kola. Thank you so much. So it's super important to understand that if Russia wanted to illustrate its strengths, it should have attacked China, but this will not happen because once again, Russia knows that it is super, super small economically. It is super small economically, and it will not work out for them. Another important thing is that right now, Ukraine is fighting with Iran, North Korea, and China. And Russia, of course, because all of these countries support Russia. Otherwise, it would have failed long, long ago. Let's just I don't know, put a list of these things where Russia illustrates its weakness. Number 1, it only attacks countries that are much smaller than it, that were previously demilitarized using various blackmail techniques, threaten techniques, or a Yanukovych coup when they actually sent a pro-Russian figure to annex Ukraine silently. And when they have, thank you so much, Aim for My Head and Russia denying that straight up deliberate barbaric terrorist bombing targeting civilians is laughable. Yeah, and that's what we say. See, when even Tucker Carlson asked Lavrov yesterday how many people died in Ukraine, and he decided not to answer the question. So we understand that Russia only chooses like smaller countries to attack them and believes that's the illustration of strength, when definitely it is not. Another thing, it will never attack the United States or any big, strong nuclear European country. We have to understand that. And I hope that people who live in France, Germany, or the United Kingdom know that. Another thing, like that literally lots of their children living in your countries, you have to be realistic that. And I want to remind you to hit the like button so that more people can watch something different than Russian propaganda. Thank you so much, Korpen. Thank you guys for your support, for giving sponsorship to our community. And thank you so much, Tony, Ed, and Ken. Thank you so much for your support. And yeah, gifts galore. Thank you so much. So by attacking smaller countries, Russia hopes that it can perform a blitzkrieg and quickly swallow everyone when it fails. Thank you so much, Daniel. And hit that like button. Daniel is right. But it also tries to, I don't know, we have this saying here in Ukraine that it tries to put like eggs in different baskets or in different nets, like, I don't know, investing in problems, in chaos everywhere. So, of course, Russia was in Syria, and Russia was super active in Syria. And it is also one of those wars that could have been prevented or brutally stopped. What Russia did to Aleppo was awful. It destroyed a beautiful city of cultural heritage value, immense cultural heritage value, but it also killed thousands of civilians. Assad was using chemical weapons, Assad was using aviation, and all of that is Russian. So they had lots of Russian mercenaries who were to some extent training how to bomb cities in Syria to later bomb in Ukraine. Because literally there were pilots of Russian bombers who first bombed Aleppo and then bombed Mariupol. And that is another proof why we need to defeat Russia in Ukraine, because it will continue on other cities in different corners of the world with this kind of training. Please understand that. When they were bombing Aleppo, they were getting ready for Mariupol. After Mariupol, they are more ready for, and I will not name your cities, but it is not going to happen like tomorrow. But if this evil is not defeated with the knowledge and expertise and this very strong connections that they developed with our enemies in Iran, North Korea, and China, they are ready. And sometimes when I watch drills in China, for example, I feel worried about NATO countries, because in China they already invest a lot of money in drones, robots, artificial intelligence. I know that in Ukraine we talk about this flocks of drones that can be controlled via AI and so on. And lots of people in NATO countries train how to jump with parachutes. Thank you so much, Winter Storm. And like, you really need to jump with parachutes in this modern warfare. It looks a little bit different right now, because like drones will you will disappear with your parachute. That is why Russia gets access, China via Russia gets access to this new knowledge, and we have them, and we are your friend, we are your ally. We like try to persuade you for decades that we belong to this Western democratic world. Please finally accept us. Please don't push us back to the Ruski Mir. You need us. Even if you don't like us, you now need us, because we know how to fight against this kind of evil. We have the skills, and we have the people, and we have the will, and we have the bravery. And I know you know, but some still don't understand that. Um, Philip and Rudy, there is a marriage proposal for you. So, this is very, very important. And please, like, whenever you have people who doubt or who have perverted understanding, try to persuade them. This works sometime. If Russian propaganda works on people, then maybe Russian anti-propaganda, anti-Russian, like debunking of their narratives can work. So in Syria, for literally a decade, they were helping Bashar Assad to control everything, and now they escape. And you know, now that 1,200 people are watching us, I want to say this quote that I love today. Russian army persuaded the world that they can take a capital in 3 days. And what we see right now is that Russia can flee the capital in 3 days. And we see how all of this, like, I don't know what's the English when you like pretend to be very strong, like you're so, give me that word. When you pretend that you're so strong that you can literally do anything you want, and then you run out bluster, then you run out of Poland, and puffy, it seems like you're fluffy, that's a good word. uh, well, definitely, it's a paper tiger and a glass cannon, I did not know that. So you pretend to be that strong and then you flee Syria. I know bravado is a nice word. You know what's weird? I know all of these words, but my Ukrainian brain did not bring them to me. They were trying to illustrate they are so strong, that Syria is the zone of their control. And now they escape it very quickly and they flee it, leaving a lot of things there, expensive things like their armored vehicles, their tanks, their aircraft. And we all know how much they need it in Ukraine too, but they leave it all and they run away. They have special, they are trying to solve a problem, how to flee the country. Assad went to the Kremlin, begged for help, and received a denial. And not because Putin wants to lose Syria, not because Putin wants to lose his influence in this part of the world, but because he has nothing to offer, because he ran out of money, of power. And that's a very vivid illustration. And what is very interesting here is that, right, Yoda, that's exactly what I want to say next. It's not about Syria, it's not about friendship between Assad and Putin, because we clearly understand that such monsters, they cannot be friends. But it is about access to very important naval base in the Mediterranean, and also air bases that they have in this part of the world. They may use it for different kinds of blackmail that Russia practices. They wanted to extend their influence from here in Mediterranean area, in the Middle East, and also in Africa. They could spec up their mercenaries from there and later send them, I don't know, to some African countries like in Mali or elsewhere. It was very important, and taking into account that sanctions work, Russian ships are not allowed any ports, it is definitely a complex thing for them. Thank you so much, David, for buying me coffee and your support. So we literally see a lot of bad things happening, and just like forget about this image losses, forget about this retreat of Russian soldiers. They also lose the access to very important naval bases and air bases. Thank you so much for your good words and your support. I value that a lot. I always read comments. You know, in Ukraine, you can get very different feelings sometimes, especially during like bad news. And then I read your comments and I realize how many friends Ukraine has in different corners of the world. So this is very, very important, and I'm very grateful for that. So what we also observe is like time is on Ukraine's side. Thank you so much, Johnny. But it's also difficult because we constantly live with strikes, with destructions, with people on the front lines, with electricity outages. And well, we realize that it's difficult, but we also realize that we don't want to pass on this war to the future generations of people. Because once again, it's not a coup, it's not something inspired by aliens. It is a 300 years war with a very evil empire that is totally dependent on Ukraine, constantly wants us back. When we see our future with the countries that respect human life, that let you change presidents during elections, that let you organize in NGOs, that let you make friends with people from other countries, respect their opinion, and so on and so forth. Something that you will never see that in Russia. So this loss of control in Syria is a great victory. Once again, I'm not concentrating on people who are the rebels fighting against Assad, because I understand it's a mixture of very different groups. And it's really difficult to identify who can potentially be an ally, who is very different from us and is dangerous. But at this moment, we seriously see that Syria, its naval bases, is lost for Russia. Assad is fleeing the country, and we will not have another puppet that was ready to repeat Putin's narratives. You know, he traveled a part of this authoritarian world, kept speaking about Putin's rights in Ukraine. He was among the few to support the annexation of Crimea. He also spoke about this Putin's delusional idea of adding Kherson and Zaporizhia to Russia. So, like, Putin lost an ally. Putin lost access to naval and avia bases. And Putin also lost image. There was a tweet of the president-elect of the president-elect Trump that where he spoke about Syria and Russia's retreat from it. We can like decode it differently, but the whole world sees. And for Putin to illustrate his machismo, he definitely needed to keep Syria on its orbit. So this is important that they have already lost this part of influence. So then the next country that demonstrated its strong stance against Russian interference is Romania. I know I have friends in Romania, and I was worried because this is a very clear illustration of how Russia works. When you have unknown candidates appearing on your elections and getting like the best numbers. And I watched some videos of the pro-Russian candidate, which is a combination of insane like conspiracy theories, of very absurd things with classical music on the background. And TikTok, by the way, is a dangerous place. And oh, greetings to Romania. Those who watch us in this beautiful country, I dream to visit Romania. I do have some stereotypes like mountains and vampires and wine, but these are good stereotypes for me because I love mountains, vampires, and wine. So, yeah, I love it. I will quote Pasi, who says, really bad week for Putin. And I wish all the next weeks to be very, very, very bad for Putin, because honestly, he deserved that. Yeah, you might have noticed, I never invite you to TikTok, and I don't advise you, because the algorithms honestly are not transparent. It was really interesting to learn that some of the accounts that actually worked for the support of the pro-Russian candidate for the president of Romania were created before the TikTok was launched, which is another proof how closely Russia cooperates with China, the developer of TikTok, and how everything is interconnected. And they crack these algorithms, they find people who lack global knowledge, because when I listen to these videos, when I listen this kind of BS that Russia spreads via such people, such candidates, it's really difficult for me to imagine that someone can believe that. What I have already noticed, that I am ready to debunk Russian propaganda, various Russian myths, but when I encounter something super absurd, like biolaboratories in Ukraine, thank you so much, Asantech, I literally have no words and no patience for such people, because obviously there is none. I had one conversation when I literally asked people, if we had these biolabs, why don't we use them? If we have these fighter mosquitoes, why don't we use them on Russians? Huh? Um, Thank you so much. And I see Spencer, Rudy, and Martin, and Philip doing so many good things in the comments. And Michael, thank you so much. My nails, not typically my style, but I want red for Christmas. So so anyway, it's so important to understand that some social media, unfortunately, can have broken algorithms, and these broken algorithms can manipulate people and their opinions, and in the result, it can lead to tragic interferences. And it's great that Romania managed to investigate it so quickly, identify 66,000 of fake accounts on TikTok. Can you imagine how much that is? And how many people that were involved, and how much money in such technologies. And another reason, I'm sure that some of these candidates, some of the representatives of this Russia-funded hijacking parties, they actually escaped Romania. And some people will say a coup, and it once again reminds me of Russia created president of Ukraine, Yanukovych, who fled our country very quickly, and he could actually continue working. He could listen to the people, negotiate something. But what he did, he stole. Guys, don't forget about that. He stole Ukrainian national treasury. They were carrying suitcases full of that, and he fled to Russia. And now we see that all of these people who want to hijack other countries, they very quickly escape to Russia. I question why? Because they like Russian climate, Russian bears, Russian vodka, Russian life standards? I doubt. Because their masters are in Russia. Because they were working for this country and they failed. If you look at countries like Ukraine, like Moldova, like Romania that was always closed, like Poland, like the Baltics, like Finland, we don't want to be Russia. We don't want to be a part of Russia. We keep screaming about that. We die for not being a part of that. And we have these hesitant leaders of various organizations that I will not name because they are our friends still. And they start thinking, maybe we should not provoke Russia. How on earth do you provoke Russia when you accept strong, big Ukraine into your company without any intention to nuke Russia from Ukraine? Where is the provocation? It's just imagine like, I don't know, you meet the most beautiful woman on the world and she loves you, she wants to be with you, but there is a crazy alcoholic living down the street who says she must be mine, and you say, well, let's not provoke him. You better live with that like drunk bear, let's not provoke him. And this is what I hear when people don't want Ukraine in NATO. I know it may be not the best comparison, but I decided to keep it simple. You know, when you listen to Tucker Carlson or where you listen to Joe Rogan, you realize that people that people have to speak like this way. It's very simple so that we can use it. Is there a video of a drunk bear? I think there are lots of such videos, but I don't surf Russian internet. And yeah, Steven Seagal can stay in Russia forever. And you know, whenever I see people who have never been to Russia, um, who have never been to Russia, and who keep cheering and speaking about this good. Oh my God! You see, like I have this nanorobots in cola. That's what makes my brain so like brainwashed to propaganda. So anyway, when you think about was accepting Ukraine or not to any alliance, think for yourself. Are we a good friend, a good ally? Do we have enough experience? Are we worth it? I don't know. Think about some standards, but don't think about Russia's opinion. It's insane to take into account the opinion of a country that will collapse because of its crazy terroristic attitudes. So, greetings to a new subscriber from Texas. Join our community. We have many great people here. No vanilla cola, unfortunately. It's rare in Ukraine. So, one thing that we see is that Russia can be defeated. Thank you so much, Lukas, and greetings to you. Oh, and when I have people who say, I like Russian people, like the person in the comments, and especially people who keep repeating Russian propaganda and narratives, there is only one thing that I wish to them. There is only one thing. And this thing totally respects YouTube policies. I can say it and nothing bad will happen. I wish these people to live in Russia. I only wish all of these people who work for Russia, who spread Russian narratives for money on YouTube, on various social media platforms, who tweet on Twitter, elsewhere in the like. I wish them to live in Russia. Simply let them enjoy, let them move, let them get a flat somewhere in Belgorod or in Tula or in Ryazan and enjoy it. Let them stay in the queues, let them feel this beautiful soul of America, of Russian people. Let them enjoy it. Thank you so much, James. If they are so much pro-Russian, why are they like spitting this hatred on the American TV, on the British TV? Why don't they like, if I felt that like I don't like my country and I love another country that much, I would have moved. No, I don't want them to stay for 3 days. I want them to stay there forever. Let it be their like life choice. They were working for Russia. They were loving Russia. So there is just one dream for them to stay there. I see we have some beautiful trolls on the channel. Thank you so much, Ascent Tech. And trolls are always a sign that we are talking about something important. And that is the losses of Putin's regime in just this week. So we have already discussed Syria, and we have discussed their failure to hijack elections in Romania. I'm also happy that people in Moldova managed to protect their pro-European choice, and Maya Sandu is the president. Thank you so much, Ian, and thank you for your kind words. And thank you that I'm quite beautiful. Quite beautiful. So Let's continue with another loss for the Russian plans, and that is Georgia. I keep saying that it is very important to defend people of Georgia right now. Please don't be neutral. Don't observe, watch, and see. And I think it is extremely important to at least share the information about what is happening in Georgia. If you are on X, if you are on Blue Sky. By the way, you can find me on this social media and on Threads, and we have a very beautiful Discord channel that you can join. And please, on all of this social media, share the information about Georgia, because what you see there resembles greatly what was in Ukraine during the Revolution of Dignity. And what we see right now is the illustration of the dignity of Georgian people. Let me tell you why it resembles me, Maidan, so much. Uh, I see many questions about my nail polish, about ear piercing. I think I should start a new channel like what's in my bag? Guys, what's my morning routine? What's my evening routine? What's my favorite under eye cream? And you know, I will tell you a secret. I'm like a girly girl. I love that stuff. So I can tell you a lot. I would, like I look at Zelensky and I don't want to be the president of Ukraine because of this like girly stuff. It won't let me sleep that much as I want. I think that Russia will not have much money to pay for propaganda because its economy is in very bad shape. It's collapsing. They are trying to hide it. Greetings and love to Romania. And there are a lot of things that they try to hide, but it is happening, so they won't have that much money to invest. But unfortunately, Russia uses the propaganda is like, and that was a funny comment, but I won't read it. So there is an interesting thing about the fact that Russia actually develops its propaganda and its messages, unfortunately, on the heritage of no, I do my nails twice a month, like every 2 weeks. That's important. So it is super important to remember that they repeat the propaganda that was actively used back in Russian Empire, then in Soviet Union, and now in modern Federation. They adjust it a little bit. And unfortunately, there are so many people that dislike their own countries because of bad mood, and they think that countries that are enemies of their countries are good. You have never tasted Russia. You have never tasted the USSR. Please, if you had this experience, you would love and run back to your country and beg for forgiveness. So Yoda reminded me beautifully that I was about to compare Maidan in Ukraine with the protest in Georgia right now. And a part of the weather, because in Ukraine we have this dark humor saying that we always have our protests and revolutions in the worst weather ever, because it's winter, it's cold, it's rainy, it's windy, and you see that they use at first water against protesters, and it's very different when the water is in winter. Actually, some of the Heavenly 100 victims died because of this very cold weather, very cold water, and inability to dry. And they suffered from that greatly, and they repeat it right now in Georgia. And it's so beautiful to watch how Georgian women stand against this cold water with Georgian flags and protect the choice of people of Georgia. And Georgia belongs to Europe, belongs to the democratic world. Honestly, I am so happy that we are so motivated and we don't get offended on the European Union, on NATO, on many Western leaders that are so hesitant in accepting the countries that fought for this right more than many that are already there, just for granted. If we had to measure the effort, the sacrifice that people in Ukraine, in Georgia, put into this final acceptance to the big European family, to the big Western family, I think it would be just to accept us. And as long as people are trying to, like, not provoke Russia, appease Russia, and keep pushing these beautiful, brave nations to the orbit of the drunk bear, it's so unjust. And I'm happy that we don't get demotivated, that we don't get offended. And I don't know what's up with our Patches fundraiser. We had just 1% left to collect, and it was like we added one more Mavic. That's why it lasts a little bit longer, but I'm very grateful that you helped make it real. It's just your achievement, and thank you so much, Alms, Trev, and Gary, for your support. Thank you. So please, can you leave the link to this NAFO campaign so that we can check? And yeah, and I will. Russian Navy has abandoned Tartus. I think that Russia will abandon really quickly the bases, its naval bases, and hopefully it will abandon Georgia and Ukraine. So coming back to this comparison of Georgia and Ukraine Revolution of Dignity. One of the reasons why people went on peaceful protest in Ukraine was Yanukovych single person decision not to continue signing the association of Ukraine with the European Union, which was the desire of Ukrainian people. And in all normal democratic countries, the power belongs to the people and people choose the course of the state. But Yanukovych was a totally created by Russia figure who constantly contacted over the telephone with Putin his decisions. And the prime minister of that time, now the Russian citizen Azarov, kept visiting Moscow, even in times of Ukraine budget planning and so on. And after one of such visits, they actually returned and said, well, we don't feel like signing an association with the EU. We don't feel like moving in that direction because gas prices, and so on. And this gave start to the protests on Maidan. And they were peaceful protests and mainly protests of students who enjoyed Erasmus, who enjoyed various opportunities that association with the European Union could give them. I think it's obvious that a Ukrainian student wanted to travel to Warsaw, to Germany, or to Nice, but not to Tula or Magadan. And they wanted this opportunity, but Yanukovych decided to help Putin annex Ukraine just as they did with Belarus. The plan was like that. And people were protesting peacefully. And the very first name of the Revolution of Dignity was actually Euromaidan, because it stood for European Union. And then, after beating of Ukrainian students on the 1st of December, when Yanukovych, in the style of Russian Federation, decided to use Berkut, decided to use police forces to beat peaceful protests of young students, on the very next day, we had 1 million people in Kyiv. Because even those who did not care much about protests, who did not believe in them, could not accept Ukrainian police beating Ukrainian children for their choice, for their protection of European Union association. And I know a lot of people who told me, like, I did not care much about politics, I did not care much about that, but when I saw these beaten children, I had to rush to Kyiv, because this could have been my son, my daughter. That's how Ukrainians act. And that is why on the 1st of December, Yanukovych had hundreds of thousands, if not like literally all over Ukraine, millions of people protesting against that. And then this history of corruption, this history of various schemes, how Russian oligarchs were entering Ukrainian businesses and Ukrainian resources, led to serious protests. And that's what we observe right now in Georgia. After Russia-funded party, the Georgian Dream, and let's be realistic, if you have the richest person in the country that constantly travels to Russia as the author of the party, it's quite obvious that it's pro-Russian. And they have decided, first of all, the elections were falsified. There are lots of video footages. There are lots of observers who reported severe violations. But after that, after the president does not verify the results, they not just enter the parliament, but they start changing vital for the Georgian people things. Like they freeze, that's how they say, they freeze the Euro integration process until 2028. That's exactly what Yanukovych did to some extent. Well, they don't say they abandon it completely. They say we will freeze it. What? There is no such thing as freezing of your European integration or something like that. And people went out on protests. And when your society is not made up of slaves and serfs, the more you suppress people, the more you try to stop them, the more you violate their rights, the stronger they unite. That is what we observed in Ukraine, and that is what we observe in that is what we observe in Georgia. I felt disappointed when I read the Adams comment. I hope it will not work like that, that Ukraine cannot become Russian ally if we have enough weapons to protect ourselves, you know, because of course, if they kill all normal Ukrainian people, Osama made to flee, and they simply enter the territory and they keep moving, then it's a tragedy, but I hope nobody wants that. So in Georgia, we see this protest, they don't stop because people are brave. And not just because of that, but because people realize that they don't want to live in Russia, because life under Russia is unbearable. And I hate receiving advice from people who has never been to Russia, who literally knows nothing about this part of the world, about our history, economy, politics, like literally nothing. And such people often like giving advice. And they may say like, okay, it's not big change. You see how many people you've lost. It's so destructive. Maybe it's not a big deal. Putin will die sometime and you will return back your territories, your country. That is insane, because you literally don't know what happens on temporarily occupied territories, how they torture people. There are filtration camps. They steal children of these people and send them to Russia. They execute people like me. It's not that they just like started speaking, I don't know, Russian at the universities and have a different flag. You don't you cannot imagine what Ruski Mir brings with itself. Their task is to eliminate Ukraine as a nation, because they clearly understand that until we are alive, we will keep fighting against them. Once again, I wish Joe Rogan to live a good life in Russia. A good life in Russia. So that is why those people who fight against the Russian regime in Georgia, they are trying to protect their future. They are trying to defend their chance to live in the societies where human life is respected, where you can fight against corruption, where you can change presidents, where you can travel around the world, and so on, and not just become this suppressed, traumatized Russian population. And you know, another very important thing that people forget about. Thank you so much, Roman and Gary, for buying me coffees. That like people in Russia, I think, are sometimes very angry at people in Ukraine, at people in Georgia, at people in Romania, at people in Moldova, because we are able, despite we are shelled, we are killed, we are wounded, we are able to stand against evil. We are able to say that we are individuals, we are personalities, we can build our future. At least I have my vision of my life. Maybe they kill us for that, but you are like, you have this self-respect, you have dignity. And you know what is a very typical phrase that you often, I think the sound is from her collar. Yeah. What is really bad about like typical comment when you hear Russian people interviewed, when you hear those who do not support, for example, Putin, and still do not do anything, they say we are small people. Do you have similar sayings in your countries? And I want to quote Spencer, who actually quotes Catalin, who says that Russia must lose. Yes, Russia must lose. So one more important thing, that they have this very typical thing, like we are small people, we cannot do anything. And I think this is the result of this trauma that they experience for at least a century. And also it is their desire not to share collective responsibility. So that when Putin's regime falls, they will repeat something that Navalny says right now, or the so-called Russian oppositioners. They will say that, oh, like it was Putin's war. Literally, they keep repeating it. But do you see how many Russian soldiers lost their lives because of their desire to invade Ukraine, because they crossed the red line, and this red line is the Ukrainian border. In every tank, in every armored vehicle, in every plane, on every military plant, there is a Russian doing it. And it's not just Putin. These are millions who cheer him up. These are millions who leave comments like, more Ukrainian children stolen to Russia, more strikes on Ukrainian hospitals. Let them know, we will teach them. That's what they often leave in the comments below. Awful things. And Ukrainians, after years of Russian violence, do not become such violent people. We don't leave such comments. All we want is the dissolution of Russia and Putin in The Hague and long processes of dezombifying there. But Russians are responsible. And I think that this phrase, we are small people, is something that they hide behind. And it's so fake. It's so wrong. This is the way they try to pretend they are not responsible when they are. Why people in Georgia, and I will say this phrase, have the balls to protest against their government that is stolen and faked by Russia during elections? Why do these girls stand on cold water with flags of their country, defending their future and saying that we don't want to be serfs of the serfs? And you will never see it in Russia. And now is the time, because we see how weak the federation is. It's obvious. They cannot control Syria. They escape from that. They are all busy with Ukraine. They have so many problems with that. And today is the time, like, to liberate Transnistria, to liberate Abkhazia and South Ossetia, to defeat them in Romania, to defeat them in Georgia. And actually, this is what's happening. But unfortunately, Spencer, I will not quote that because I don't use like bad words. You remember this like girly stuff. Thank you so much for your kind words, people. So what we see right now is the time to finish this imperial project of Putin. We can do it. They are exhausted. They have serious economic troubles. The ruble is falling. They have stopped selling it to pretend that the rate is not changing, but just because they have frozen selling of the currency, and you can still join Discord and give your votes there. And another thing is that I believe if other countries would now push against Russia, like fight back for their territories, Japan decided to take back something, it would be really great. It would be really great. It would be the time, because Russia is a paper tiger. Russia is not able to protect its assets in Syria. We see that anywhere. Thank you so much, Run Forest and Dachi. Thank you so much for buying me coffees and another sip of cola with nanoparticles. You know, people from biolabs drink this stuff. By the way, if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter or Blue Sky, I've shared my photo of 2010 when I was preparing for a coup. You may join me there and try to recognize whom did I cosplay there. You will find time there. So like, if everything develops as it is, Russia will inevitably collapse and lose its power. It has already lost a lot, but the process will continue. And I don't know what are the peace plans that people discuss. I zoomed the photos of Zelensky, Trump, and Macron to try to recognize their emotions. What do they think? What did they talk about? But honestly, my honest thoughts is that there is no peace plan at the moment, and people are just analyzing the situation, negotiating, thinking what is possible, what is not. And I hope that until they will discuss, they will the Russia will collapse, because there are some serious processes happening. And people, I am going to share another vlog today that I have recorded, and it tells an interesting story about the largest Russian microchip factory that they had to close. And they wanted to be competitive on the market of microchips. And you need microchips for various evil technologies that they develop. And they needed to close it. Do watch this video, share this video. It will appear in an hour on a channel, but it also gives some interesting updates on the Russian economy from the perspective of Washington Post. So it's not a subjective Ukrainian view. It's an official Washington Post article. Thank you so much, Marcus. And greetings to Canada. And greetings to India. Yes, we need to demilitarize Russia and peace will prevail. That is the best way to liberate so many countries that are under constant threat of this Russian imperial character. So I see that many people thank our beautiful mods, and I want to do the same because we have an amazing team of Philip and Spencer and Martin and Rudy, and we have Neil and Francois and Michael constantly cheering people to join the channel. And thank you so much, Peter, for your constant support and these messages. I always return to rereading these messages and they teach me a lot. I always read your comments, they inspire me, and I'm so grateful for all the good things that you do to support Ukraine in your countries, to remind people. And there is so many things that we have to do together to debunk and save people from Russian propaganda. Thank you so much, Trev. Because one more thing that, thank you so much, Yoda. I will answer that question because fathers is more visible one, and I hated that. So NATO is a must. This is just like, I love European Union, but if I had to choose, I would first jump to NATO and then to the European Union. Jump is the verb. And that actually debunking Russian lies and propaganda is not only about saving Ukraine, changing people's attitudes, I don't know, making them understand that it's not war in Ukraine, it's not money for Ukraine. It's defeating Russia after it violated so many international laws. It's protecting the world from further conflicts and wars. And it's giving weapons for Ukrainians to do the job and to save human lives if it is worth something in the modern world. I hope, I pray for that. But it is also very important for you and for people in different corners of the world, because it is not that Russian propaganda destroys coalitions or something of our allies, but it is also that they try to undermine your trust in your governments. They may not be perfect. Thank you so much, Rudy, but they are definitely kinder and more respectful to you than Russian would. They try to confront people. I'm sure that, for example, this huge wave of hatred that was in the air during the US elections is not just a complex process of elections, but Russia's efforts. And it is happening everywhere. And one of the main conclusions that I want to make today, and I think it's important, we can actually discuss that on our next conversations, and Philip is sharing important link to my Blue Sky. So this very important conclusion that I want to share with you is that when millions are afraid of the nuclear war, when millions are afraid of Russian blackmail and the start of the Third World War, and they are looking what kind of missile will target their city, can it actually cross this distance, at what speed, it is a distraction. Russia will not use nuclear weapons, at least on you. Maybe on us, I don't know, but on you it will not use. It is a distraction. And do you know why they need this distraction? because they are already fighting an evil war against you, but it is just a hybrid war. It looks different. It's not missiles coming, but these are lots of evil things happening in your politics, in your economy, in your relations with other nations, because Russia invests in that. I know that Russia is responsible for lots of narratives for, let's say, in Poland, that may become quite complex. I know that Russia interfered in the elections in Romania, in Moldova, in Georgia. I know that Russia kills people in England, for example. People observed the death of Litvinenko online. Why? Because he said that Putin was responsible for attacks in Chechnya. We see that it is already happening. Underwater cables, shadow fleet that spoils the waters, and many more things. Constant stresses, even this like stress that is present in your everyday life is the result of Russia. The money that you have to invest in your protection, not even Ukraine, but in your defense, instead of, I don't know, building parks or cleaning waters, is not because of Ukraine. It's because of Russia. And that is why when we destroy their narratives, when we destroy their propaganda, when we do not make people popular who spread this BS, we save this planet and Ukraine as a bonus. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much. You see, moderators, how many beautiful people. Thank you. I was very glad to spend this evening in Ukraine with you, your day, your morning. Remember to watch the next video where we discuss problems in Russian economy and the closure of the largest microchip plant. And thank you so much for all the coffees that you buy, for becoming sponsors of the channel. Thank you for being patrons. This is a blessing and an inspiration. Check our merch shop. There are lots of good items that work well as reminders, conversation starters about Ukraine, but right now also as Christmas presents. And we have 2 calendars, one with me and Ukrainian names of the months, but we also have another calendar that I personally like more. I'm not that selfish, don't worry. And that one with the beautiful sceneries from Ukraine with QR codes. And with the help of this QR code, you can actually read more about that location. Unfortunately, some of them are temporarily occupied, but many are in Ukraine under our protection, and all will return back, and you will be invited to travel and discover them. So these can be really smart presents. Support me on Instagram. More of everyday life there. Support me on X. I'm still fighting there. On Blue Sky, on Discord, and Threads. And thank you so much for spending this evening with me. Thank you, Rudy. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Spencer. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Meg. Thank you so much for being friends of Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!